All right, diving right in today, folks. We're talking food safety, but not just your average tips and tricks.
We're going deep on why this stuff is especially crucial for anyone with a compromised immune system.
And, that could be more of us than we think, right?
Oh, absolutely. We're not just talking about age here. Think chronic illnesses, certain medications.
Yeah, stuff that maybe weakens the body's defenses a bit. So we're using this FDA booklet as our guide today.
It's called Food Safety for People with Compromised Immune Systems.
Catchy, right? But seriously, it's packed with info, and they even have a Spanish version, which is awesome.
Always good to have resources available for everyone.
To kick things off, I want to share this story from the booklet. It's about a woman named Diana, and let me tell you, it's a real eye-opener.
Oh, Diana's story. It's a classic example of why we're doing this deep dive.
So picture this. Diana's 64, generally healthy, living her life. She buys some ground turkey from the store, figures turkey burger night.
Sounds pretty normal, right?
Totally. She cooks one up, freezes the rest. Nothing out of the ordinary. But that night, damn, stomach cramps hit her like a truck.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and then it's days of just awful, constant diarrhea. She's stuck in the bathroom, can't leave.
Oh, can only imagine. Poor Diana.
She thought it was the flu at first, but thankfully her son insisted she go to urgent care.
That was a good call.
Turns out she was severely dehydrated. Potassium levels were way off from all the, they rushed her to the hospital.
And the culprit.
Salmonella poisoning from that ground turkey.
Wow.
Doctors weren't even sure she'd pull through. It was that serious. And here's the thing. Her grandson almost ate the same turkey.
Oh, that's terrifying. It really highlights how vulnerable we can be, especially when our immune systems aren't operating at full strength.
And this is where it gets interesting, right? It's not just about age.
Right. The FDA lists all these groups. People with cancer, diabetes, HIV/AIDS, organ transplant recipients.
The list goes on. And it made me realize I don't actually know why some of these conditions make food safety so critical. Like, take diabetes. What's the connection there?
Well, you see, diabetes, it doesn't just affect blood sugar. It can also impact the nerves that control your gut.
Interesting.
Yeah, so food might move through more slowly, giving those bad bacteria more time to, multiply and potentially cause problems.
So it's like a domino effect. The underlying condition creates this more other layer of vulnerability.
Exactly. And then think about folks who've had organ transplants.
Right.
They're on immunosuppressant drugs to prevent rejection. Life-saving, absolutely. But it also means their defenses are down, making them way more susceptible to foodborne infections.
It's kind of mind-blowing how interconnected everything is. So we've got this picture of who's at risk, but just how common are these foodborne illnesses? I mean, we hear about outbreaks, but are we talking about a few isolated cases?
Not even close. The CDC statistics are actually pretty alarming. We're talking 48 million Americans getting hit with foodborne infections every year.
48 million. Wow, that's
1 in 6 people.
1 in 6. That's way more than I expected.
And of those, 128,000 end up hospitalized.
Jeez.
Sadly, around 3,000 don't make it. It's a sobering reminder that even with all our food safety standards, the risk is real.
Especially for those dealing with a compromised immune system like we've been talking about.
Absolutely. For most folks, food poisoning might be a few days of misery, but for someone with a weakened immune system, it can be life or death.
So what can we do about it besides, never eating again? The FDA booklet talks about choosing lower risk foods over higher risk ones.
They've got a handy table breaking it down. Like, we all know raw meat is riskier than cooked.
Right.
But the booklet explains why. Cooking acts as a sanitation process, basically zapping those harmful bacteria and parasites that raw meat can carry.
Makes sense. What about stuff like unpasteurized milk and cheese? Those are trendy, but...
Pasteurization. It's like giving your milk a hot bath to kill off any bad bugs. Unpasteurized stuff might have a certain, artisanal appeal, but it comes with a higher risk, especially for folks with weaker immune systems.
So artisanal cheese, at your own risk, I guess. But this one always gets me. Raw sprouts. What's the deal with those? They seem so innocent.
Think about it. The warm, humid conditions sprouts need to grow. Perfect breeding ground for bacteria, too.
Oh, okay.
And washing them doesn't really cut it because the bacteria can live inside the sprout seeds.
So it's like a little bacterial party in there. I'm also curious about deli salads, like the pre-made ones versus what I make at home. Is there a difference?
Control is the key difference. At home, you're in charge of the ingredients, the cleanliness, how long it sits out. Deli salads, who knows how long they've been hanging out in that display case, giving bacteria a chance to multiply.
So DIY salads for the win, especially if you're in the higher risk category. But beyond choosing the right foods, the FDA booklet lays out these 4 steps to food safety. They even call them, the 4 steps to food safety.
It's our food safety toolkit, basically.
And they're pretty straightforward: clean, separate, cook, and chill, like superhero powers.
I like that.
Okay, let's break it down. Starting with clean. We all know hand washing is crucial. But what else should we be scrubbing like crazy?
Your cutting boards, especially after you've been working with raw meat, hot soapy water after each use. And don't forget, countertops, utensils, even appliance handles can harbor germs.
Got it. Okay, feeling cleaner already. Next up, separate. Which makes me think of keeping raw meat far, far away from everything else.
Exactly. Raw meat is like that bad influence you don't want corrupting your innocent veggies. Bottom shelf of the fridge so juices don't drip onto other foods.
Good point. I'm guilty of not always doing that. What about when I'm actually prepping the food?
Separate cutting board, one for raw meat, one for everything else. And never reuse marinades that touched raw meat unless you boil them first.
Okay, separation anxiety noted. Now cook. I'm guessing this is where our trusty food thermometer comes in?
Absolutely. Remember Diana's story? Thorough cooking could have prevented that whole ordeal. The FDA booklet has a table with safe internal temperatures for different foods.
Yeah.
But the key ones to remember: 165 for poultry, 160 for ground meats, and 145 for fish.
Got it. Those temperatures are the enemy of those nasty food bugs. Last but not least, we have chill, the cool customer of our food safety squad.
Chill is all about refrigeration. Cold temperatures slow down those bacterial speed demons. Keep your fridge at 40 degrees Fahrenheit or below.
And use an appliance thermometer to double check, right?
Always a good idea.
Okay, I'm checking mine as soon as we're done here. What about leftovers? I tend to cram everything into one big container.
No. Divide large portions into shallower containers so they cool down faster in the fridge. Less chill time for bacteria, less risk for you.
Great tip. So those are the 4 core steps. But the FDA booklet goes deeper with extra advice specifically for folks with compromised immune systems. They recommend, for example, reheating deli meats thoroughly.
Right, because Listeria, a particularly nasty bacteria, can grow even in the fridge, especially in those packaged deli meats.
Wait, seriously, so even if it looks ready to eat?
Especially for our listeners who are more vulnerable, yes, heat it up.
Wow, good to know. And another one that caught my eye. No more sneaking bites of raw cookie dough or batter.
I know, it's a tough one. But flour can carry bacteria, even E. coli. And for someone with a compromised immune system, that's a risk not worth taking.
I'm sensing a theme here, minimizing exposure to anything raw.
You got it. And one more tip. If a recipe calls for raw or undercooked eggs, like Caesar salad dressing or homemade ice cream, choose the store-bought stuff that uses pasteurized eggs.
So store-bought Caesar dressing it is. I'm all about minimizing that risk.
And speaking of minimizing risk, the FDA booklet emphasizes that it's no substitute for personalized medical advice. What might be safe for one person could be risky for another, especially with so many different health conditions out there.
That's a crucial point. So even after this deep dive, what's the next step for our listeners, especially those with compromised immune systems?
Talk to their doctor. Their doctor can give advice tailored to their specific situation, medications, lifestyle, the whole picture. This deep dive is about empowering you with knowledge, but your doctor helps you apply it to your life.
It's like having a personalized food safety plan. Because knowing is half the battle, but knowing how to use that knowledge is what keeps you healthy.
I love that analogy.
So let's talk specifically about older adults. I mean, we all know our immune systems weaken as we age. But what does that really mean in terms of, like, what we can eat?
Right. Does Grandma have to live on toast and boiled water from now on?
Exactly. Hopefully not. But Diana's story, it does kind of make you think twice, you know?
It's a great reminder that age is a factor. And the FDA booklet, they dedicate a whole section to this, the challenges seniors face when it comes to food safety.
Okay, so is it just the immune system weakening, or are there other things happening as we get older that make food safety more complicated?
It's kind of a combo deal, unfortunately.
Ugh, great.
Like, even our digestion slows down as we age.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so food hangs out in the gut longer, which gives those bacteria more time to, throw a party and cause trouble.
So it's like the older we get, the more welcoming our gut becomes to these uninvited bacterial guests.
Exactly. And our liver and kidneys, our body's detox crew, they get less efficient too. So even a small amount of bacteria can hit harder.
Wow, it's a double whammy. So it's no wonder the FDA booklet really emphasizes those 4 steps, clean, separate, cook, and chill, for seniors especially.
It's all about building those layers of protection, But beyond the basics, there are some extra tips specifically for older folks.
Oh, like what?
Well, they advise being super careful with leftovers. Toss them after 3 days, even if they seem okay.
3 days. I think I push it way longer than that.
Yeah, most people do, but especially when it comes to protecting our loved ones, better safe than sorry.
Right, of course. And I guess best by dates, even though they're not always perfect, they're probably more important to pay attention to as we get older, huh?
Definitely. And trust your senses. If it looks, smells, or feels off, trust your gut, literally.
True. Speaking of gut, I've gotten pretty good about using a food thermometer, but Any tips specifically for older adults?
Ease of use is key. Some folks might have trouble seeing tiny numbers or low contrast.
Oh, right.
So look for a thermometer with big, clear numbers. Make sure it's calibrated correctly.
Accessibility. Yeah, that makes total sense. So, assuming we've got the tools and the basics down, are there any specific foods the booklet advises seniors to be extra cautious with?
Oh, for sure. Raw or undercooked eggs are a big one.
Salmonella, right?
Yep. And that risk is even higher for older adults.
So, no more runny yolks for grandma.
Scrambled, fried, or boiled are the safer bets. And those sprouts we talked about earlier, those are on the avoid list for seniors too.
Got it. So, sprouts and runny yolks out. Anything else?
Unpasteurized milk and cheese, they're on the be cautious list. That artisanal stuff, it might be tempting,
Yeah,
but the bacteria risk just isn't worth it for folks with weaker immunity.
pasteurized dairy it is. Okay, so the booklet mostly focuses on home cooking, but what about eating out? Any advice for seniors navigating the restaurant world?
Be choosy. Look for places with a good reputation for cleanliness, good food safety practices.
Like if you can't see into the kitchen, that's probably a bad sign, huh?
Exactly. And don't be shy about communicating any needs or concerns. Ask how things are prepared, request modifications.
Right, it's your health. You're in charge.
Absolutely. If you want your meat well done, your salad without sprouts, just speak up.
And if something seems off about the food, undercooked, weird smell, whatever, don't hesitate to send it back.
Right. Be an advocate for yourself. Speaking of advocating, the booklet also talks about being proactive with food safety when you're traveling.
Oh yeah, vacations. That's where I tend to let my guard down. Trying all the exotic foods and...
Totally. But for seniors, it's even more important to be careful, especially in places where food handling standards might be different.
So what's the game plan for safe travels?
Research. Look up your destination's food safety guidelines beforehand. The CDC website has a lot of good information.
Smart move. What else?
Bottled water, all the way. Avoid tap water, even for ice, if the water quality is questionable.
Makes sense. What about street food? That's always so tempting when you're traveling.
It can be risky, yeah, especially for seniors. If you do indulge, choose vendors that look like they've got good hygiene. And start with small portions, see how you feel before going for seconds.
Little culinary recon mission.
Exactly. And remember, food safety isn't a one-time thing. It's an ongoing habit, especially as we age.
It's like brushing your teeth, basically. You don't just do it once in a while. You got to do it consistently.
That's a great way to put it. It's an investment in staying healthy and enjoying a longer, more delicious life.
And on that delicious note, we've covered a lot of ground today, especially those extra precautions for older adults.
Right, and we've learned that age can make us a little more vulnerable to those foodborne illnesses.
But there are still those other groups we talked about, the folks with compromised immune systems due to other medical conditions.
We'll get to them. We've got to cover the cancer patients, folks with diabetes, HIV/AIDS, organ transplant recipients, and those with autoimmune diseases, too. They're all at a higher risk from those foodborne illnesses, too.
Right, and I'm guessing there are some extra things those groups need to think about, even beyond the 4 main steps.
You bet. But we'll save all that for the final part of our deep dive. Stay tuned.
Okay, so we've talked about older adults and the unique challenges they face with food safety.
But let's not forget those other groups, right? Those folks with compromised immune systems due to, well, all sorts of medical conditions.
Exactly. We touched on it earlier. Cancer, diabetes, HIV/AIDS, organ transplants, autoimmune diseases. It's a big list.
And a diverse one, for sure. Each condition comes with its own set of, well, quirks, I guess you could say.
Quirks, I like that. So while those 4 steps, clean, separate, cook, and chill, they're essential for everyone, are there any specific nuances for these particular groups?
Absolutely. Like, let's take folks undergoing cancer treatment, for example, especially chemo.
Yeah, chemo's tough.
It can really knock their immune system down, making them super susceptible to any kind of infection, foodborne ones included.
So for them, those 4 steps are even more crucial.
Oh, absolutely. Non-negotiable, really. And they might need to be extra careful about certain foods. Raw or undercooked meat, seafood, things that could be harboring bacteria that their weakened immune systems might struggle to fight off.
Minimize that risk, right?
Exactly. Every little bit helps. Now, what about folks with diabetes? We talked about how it can affect digestion, but are there any other food safety implications?
Well, managing blood sugar is super important for them, right?
Right.
Certain foods can cause those spikes, and those spikes can actually weaken their immune response.
So it's like a double whammy. They're managing their diabetes and making sure their immune system is strong enough to fight off those foodborne invaders.
Exactly. It's a balancing act. And this is where a registered dietitian can be a lifesaver,
Oh, good point.
They can help create a meal plan that keeps blood sugar stable and provides all the nutrients needed for a healthy immune system.
It's not just about avoiding the bad stuff, but actually nourishing your body with the good stuff, too.
Right. Fueling those defenses. Now, when we talk about folks with HIV/AIDS, their immune systems are obviously significantly compromised. So what's the advice for them?
Yeah, what kind of precautions do they need to take? Well, the FDA booklet really emphasizes vigilance, avoiding any potential source of contamination, meticulous hand washing, cooking everything thoroughly, no raw or undercooked ingredients whatsoever.
Wow, so it's really a zero-tolerance policy.
Pretty much. And of course, regular checkups with their doctor following medical advice. Food safety is a crucial part of their overall health management plan.
Makes sense. Now, we talked about organ transplant recipients earlier and how those immunosuppressant drugs, while totally necessary, can also suppress their immune systems.
Right. What's the food safety lowdown for them?
Exactly. Any specific tips?
Often they have to follow a very strict diet, especially in those early days after the transplant. No raw meat, seafood, eggs, no unpasteurized dairy. Basically, anything that carries a higher risk of foodborne illness is off the menu.
Wow, so their food choices might be even more limited than some of the other groups we've talked about.
It can be tough, yeah, but it's all about protecting that new organ. They'll work closely with their transplant team and a dietitian to make sure they're getting the nutrients they need while staying safe.
It's like a whole new world of food rules. Okay, and finally, let's touch on autoimmune diseases.
Ah, yes. Their immune system is basically attacking their own body, right? And the medications they take can further suppress their immune response.
Right, so it's a double challenge for them.
Definitely. Those core food safety principles, the clean, separate, cook, and chill, those are non-negotiable.
Yeah, like we said, those are the foundation for anyone with a weakened immune system.
Exactly. But on top of that, they might need to be mindful of specific foods that could trigger their autoimmune condition or make it worse.
So it's about avoiding potential triggers and minimizing the risk of foodborne illness at the same time.
You got it. And often that means working with a healthcare professional, maybe a dietitian or a specialist in their specific condition, to create a personalized plan that takes everything into account.
It's amazing how much nuance there is to this whole food safety thing. It's not a one-size-fits-all approach at all.
It's about understanding your own individual needs and risks and taking the right precautions.
It's about empowerment, really.
Absolutely. Knowing the risks, understanding the tools, and working with your healthcare team to create a plan that keeps you safe and healthy.
Well said. I feel like we've covered so much today. We started with Diana's story, which was such a powerful reminder of how serious foodborne illness can be, especially for those of us with weaker immune systems.
Right. And we explored those 4 core steps, the clean, separate, cook, and chill. Those are our everyday superheroes.
Exactly, protecting us from those nasty little foodborne villains. And we learned that while those steps are important for everyone, they're especially crucial for folks with compromised immunity, whether it's from age or a medical condition.
And we learned that each group might have some extra things to consider, some additional precautions to take, so working with your doctor to personalize your approach is key.
It's been a real eye-opener, this deep dive into the world of food safety. I know I've learned a lot, and I hope our listeners have too.
Me too. Knowledge is power, right? But it's only powerful when we actually use it.
So, to our listeners, go forth and conquer those kitchens. Be mindful, be careful, and most importantly, enjoy those delicious meals safely.
And if you have any questions, any concerns at all, don't hesitate to reach out to your doctor. They're your best resource on this food safety journey.
Beautifully said. Thanks for joining us on the deep dive, everyone. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and stay safe.